Hey there neighbors, Kevin here with eTrailer, and today I have my buddy Corey. He's one of our warehouse managers here, and we're going to be going over the Diode Dynamics SS3 LED fog light replacement kits that we installed on his Subaru WRX, and give you guys a little bit of a lowdown on exactly how these are going to work and what the install is going to be like. If you're into the overlanding group, or maybe you're just a car scene person, then you know Diode Dynamics is one of the top tier brands for replacement lights, whether that's going to be your fog lights, your headlights, maybe a light bar, or even some ditch lights. Diode Dynamics is going to set you up with a nice premium product that's going to give you the best visibility. So why don't you tell us a little bit about why you chose these specific fog lights for your Subaru?
So I chose the SS3. They are locally made. Factory fog lights were not cutting it on a rainy night, couldn't see the lines. So I went with the SS3s to give it that classic Subaru rally look. So that way on rainy days, track days, if you need those bright amber lights, that's why I went with the SS3s.
So we originally installed these back in February. It is now May, around the beginning of it. So we've had this for about 3 months. The big thing here was we were just starting to pick up Diode Dynamics. Corey had already purchased the lights and was planning on installing them himself. But since we can get the content out there for you to do it at home now, just win-win for everybody. What did you initially find when you were looking at this and you were going to plan on doing it yourself?
When I initially looked into doing this myself, there were no videos out there. Couldn't find any instructions for the 22 plus WRX, and it was a project I was not willing to take on myself. So I brought it here to Kevin at eTrailer to get the video out there.
Yeah, so when I looked myself, the instructions that Diode Dynamics have typically are going to be pretty good. They love to make videos and show everybody how to install their products, but unfortunately this was just a vehicle type that they just had not had in yet, and there were no other videos or any other kind of content or step-by-step instructions for us to go through. So this was a bit of a learning curve here. I did have to kind of figure this all out myself, and it was just by taking piece by piece by piece off and working our way through it that we were able to get it installed, because this is not going to be that simple swap out like it used to be with the model years prior to 22. So before we get too much into the install here, let's take a closer look at our lights themselves. So with this being an SS3, that's going to be a 3-inch by 3-inch pod right here. And that's going to come with some custom fit brackets. That's going to be those Fox beam brackets. They're going to mount right up, so that way you're not having to drill or cut anything and then bolt in some separate stuff. You're not having to manufacture anything yourself here. You're going to be able to pop it right in once you get the old one out. Along with that, since Corey's had such a long time to use these, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your experience with them?
So with my experience with these going on about 3 months now, this is my daily car, so I have them on all the time. Driving at night, even when they're not needed, the field of view is very wide on them. Goes down into the ditch. It allows me to see any wildlife that is on the side of the road before I get there. Even at night when it's raining, I can see the lines perfectly just fine.
Yeah, so the reason why it's pushing out so far and we're seeing that over into the ditch like Corey was talking about is because Diode Dynamics does a super awesome job at focusing the light beam. And that's super important when it comes to your lights. The LED or diode that's in there, all of them can kind of pretty much put out the same amount of light, but it's really about how you focus that light and harness it to have that field of view really show brightly. And with these fog lights, it's going to be a really, really wide cone of view that you're going to have, but there will still be that strong center view, so that way everything in front of you is going to be visible. And then with the width of that, now we're getting that side action to where we can kind of see some other things that are going on, which can be pretty helpful, especially like Corey was saying, on those rainy nights. Maybe when you're coming up to an intersection, you might not be able to really see what's off to the side street that you might be turning through. If you're at a four-way intersection and you got heavily tinted windows, especially like what I have on my truck, it is really hard to see. So having something that's going to spread that light out and give you more visibility is really going to make a difference here. Now that we've gone over some of the features, why don't we roll back the clock and show you how to get this installed. Just to preface that though, if you are not wanting to do this yourself, maybe it's just a little bit more involved than what you want to do, please feel free to use our dealer locator. You can enter in your zip code and find a shop near you to get it professionally installed. But with that said, let's go back to the shop. Starting out our installation, we are going to have to remove our fascia, unfortunately. So what we're going to need to do is get inside of here in our wheel well. There's going to be 5 push pins that you're going to need to remove. And some of those will be kind of in the wheel well liner and then kind of down at the bottom right here where the wheel well liner plastic kind of meets the other plastic that connects our fascia up to the vehicle. And then as you move around, there's going to be even more on both the bottom and the top as well. Let's show you how we got those out. We'll start by popping out these two. I'm just going to work my way down. There are so many push pins on this fascia that it's going to be really easy to kind of mix up which one goes where. So I would definitely set these aside in the specific order so that way you can easily put them back. Because not every one of these push pins is going to be the same style. Like these two right here are pretty small, and then there'll be a much larger one down here. I would definitely invest in a very skinny flathead screwdriver. That's going to be your best tool for getting all these out. This one has quite a bit of dirt kind of packed into it just because of how low it sits. So you might struggle with it a bit. Plus it's also going through like 3 different pieces of plastic. And if your little flathead isn't working, that's where you can grab a trim panel tool and keep working it out the rest of the way. I'm going to keep just working my way along our fascia. We are going to need to pop out this one just because this piece of plastic's coming with us and it's tied in right here. Next we'll go over just a little bit more, and on this one it has a little spot so you can easily kind of pop it out. It's got like a flathead screwdriver to loosen it up, which makes it a little bit easier to get out. So I don't think that this one is part of our fascia. We might find out it is though. I'll just go ahead and pull a couple others out. I'm going to stick with this one because I know this one is going to be part of this guy, which is also part of our front fascia. So we'll take him out. So now we're just going to work our way over. Like I said, it's going to be like 5 push pins going across the bottom and 5 going across the top. Once we get over to that other side, we're going to take out the same exact ones that we took out from this side. Now on the top of our fascia, I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm going to work my way from the driver's side over to the passenger side, just keeping in mind which ones go where, just so that it'll be easier to install later on. Using our 10mm socket, we are going to have 3 bolts on our driver's side and 3 bolts on our passenger side we're going to remove. Once we have all those fasteners out, this little trim piece right here with the gasket for the hood is also going to be detached from it. So I just set it up out of the way. And we're going to get a second set of hands. We've got Brad over there on the other side. And we're just going to kind of pry up. We've kind of looked through it already. There's only push tabs in here, so we don't have to worry about any other screws or anything like that. But you got to be really careful. It's really easy to break these fascias if you start bending too hard on it, especially when you're around the tail light like that with this other accents here. We also put some tape on here, and that's just going to kind of help protect that edge right there between the 2 pieces of fascia and the quarter panel. That way it's not rubbing paint on paint. So we'll start prying back on that, and we're going to try and pull forward away from the vehicle so that we can pop this out. Came right off. And we're going to have a couple connectors we're going to take out. So on our fog lights, we'll have a little push-in connector here at the bottom. So just be careful around this headlight right here. We'll pop that off. And there'll be one on the passenger side as well. And we can set our fascia down. Now that we have our fascia off, we can remove our housing for our fog light. So the whole reason that we have to remove this fascia is this one screw right here, because it's blocked while the fascia is on. There's no way to get to it without drilling through some of the other plastic. So this is our culprit right here. We'll pop him out. And we have one push pin that's also holding us in place. Take that out. Then we can lift up. You want to kind of lift up on the left side, pull straight out, because we have two little tabs right here. And in the fascia, here are those two slots that those go into. Next, we'll take out these two screws right here and here, and then also this push pin. And that's going to allow us to remove the factory fog light. Pop that push pin out because we're going to reuse that. And we're not going to keep this. You can just toss that, save that for somebody else if you want to. That part of the plastic is going to be going away with our new light. All right, the orientation of your light is going to be super important, so we want to make sure that we're doing this the correct way. If we look at this, this is our passenger side because we got our tabs on the right-hand side here. On the back of our light, you can see the orientation based on where the connection point is. It's under all these cooling fins, and you can also kind of tell from the front because it has a D for Diode Dynamics at the front. You want to make sure that that's facing up. As we slip this into our housing, we are going to have to kind of hold it in place because we do need to put on our hardware and then put on the actual mount that's going to hold this in the housing. In your hardware, you're going to have some lock nuts. We're going to put that into the little slots that we have right there. And that's going to hold those in place so that we can put in our screws. For the screws, you're going to have a washer and a lock washer. And we want to have that washer first, and then that lock washer. The lock washer is going to bite into the side here. All right, with those two nuts in place, we can put on our mount, and if you look at the very top of it, it's going to have a directional arrow telling you that this needs to go facing forward. So those little tabs right there will be facing down towards the light. We'll drop that guy in. And then we can take our screw, which is going to have a washer and then a lock washer with little teeth on it. And those teeth are going to bite in and prevent this from moving. So that way when we tighten it down and we get our height setting how we want it, we can keep it locked in place and don't have to worry about any road vibration causing issues. This is going to be a little bit harder to tighten up. You can put an Allen key in, so if you take a look at the side. The problem is once you have this locked into the housing, you can't really get an Allen key in there anymore. So if you have some skinnier pliers with some teeth at it, so where you're just using some wire strippers, that will be able to kind of bite into those little knurls on there and be able to help you tighten it down once you start getting into the adjusting phase. We'll have those two screws that we took out to replace and that push pin, and that's what's going to help hold our mount to the housing. So you can see right now just how loose it is. We're going to tighten this up quite a bit. You want it to where you can move it just slightly, just enough to adjust, but not enough to where it's that loose. So we'll tighten this down quite a bit. And like I was saying, you can't really get to that other side, so we're going to need to use pliers for that. So now I have a lot more resistance. As I go to adjust this, it's going to actually hold it in place now. With our light now in the housing, we're going to put it back in place. You'll want to push those tabs in first, then drop down. You want this to be on the inside of that fascia. It should be just like that. Otherwise, your screw or your push pin hole up at the top there isn't going to fit. We'll put our screw in. And then that push pin. The next step would be connecting up our wire harness. Now they are going to give you this guy right here, which is just going to kind of be a T connector. It's going to pop right into our light and then connect to our factory wiring. But it also has this extra wire, which you can run to a 12-volt fused power source, which is going to be prior running lights is what I'm going to tap into. This is optional. You don't have to do it. But if you're going for the aesthetic of it, to have that backlight option, kind of a must. Especially with this style of vehicle, this is here for looks. So we're going to go ahead and figure out exactly which wire we need to splice into. They also provide you with a quick splice, so you can easily just kind of tap right into that wire without actually doing anything hard. So we'll figure it out and we'll let you know how we do it. To complete our connection to our fog light, we're going to take this female end right here, pop it into our factory connector, and I'm going to pull our bumper a little bit closer. And we'll pop our connector in. We want to have that tab facing down towards the bottom. And we'll pop it in. And then we can lift up our fascia. We were going to get this almost on so that we can adjust our headlight or our fog lights. Because as you can see, we can still kind of put that up and down and get that set just how we need it. So I just have this sitting on here. It is not fully held in place. You might want to grab like an extra set of hands or something. We're going to adjust this just like this, and what our goal is we want the fog light beam to just barely be kind of meeting up with our headlight beam. So I'm going to go turn that on. We'll turn off the lights in here, and then we can adjust those up and down, and then we'll pull it back off. We'll tighten those screws in the mount so that way that light's not going to be able to shift anymore. If you look over on our passenger side, you can see that the yellow is almost up to right where that white light is hitting from our headlights. But if we look over at the driver's side, we're pointed down a little bit too much. We've got this black gap right here where you can see that the two beams are not meeting up. So on our driver's side, we're going to need to kind of push that light just a little bit up until those two meet. All right, we'll push that up just slightly. So to get power for our backlights on our fog lights, we were trying to tap into the wiring that runs up to our headlights, trying to get into that daytime running light. Unfortunately, with the way this car is wired up, you just can't. So instead, what we're going to do is tap into one of our fuses that's tied into the ignition, and then we'll run wires out up to our fog lights, and we can show you how to do it. Here on the driver's side, we have this 20 amp cigar fuse. So we know that's this little outlet right up front, because we pulled it and checked to make sure it was this. We're not going to be pulling that much. The backlights are only pulling 2 milliamps. So what I did was I pulled that one out. I stuck a fuse tap in, which you can see right up in there. And then I ran the wiring down. And if you get up under the dash right here on the left side of our driver's area, there's going to be 2 different gaskets or grommets. And we went through the top one, and that kind of comes out into the quarter panel. So we had to remove this little piece of trim right here, and we just kind of felt inside there and just kept pushing wire till we could grab it. So it'll come out right back here, and then I just ran it all through our framing. And I tried to follow the wire that runs up to the latch for our hood. And then once we got up to the latch, I have it kind of sitting across the radiator, just coming down by our passenger side headlight. The harness is going to come with a spade connector. I cut that off and I just used a heat shrink butt connector just because this is going to be sitting outside where moisture is definitely going to be a contributor to any kind of corrosion here. As you can see just down below, there's a bunch of dirt and rocks and stuff like that, and our neighbors only had the car for a few months, so that just to give you a little idea of what's all going to be up in here. So you'll really want to protect that and use a heat shrink if you do go ahead and tap into it that way. Now that we know we have power, just go ahead and double check that you're happy with that tilt, and then we can tighten that up. You want to make sure that you do this before you try and put the bumper back on, because you're not going to be able to get back in there with that Allen key. It's going to be a huge fight. So make sure you do that first, and then we're going to reinstall our bumper and all the trim pieces that we took off just to get all that wiring in. Now that we've walked through the install and shown you how to do this yourself, you too can also have that high-end performance out of your fog lights, as well as keep that nice old Subaru look. So with all that being said, if you do still have some questions on what's going to be the right kit for your specific vehicle, or maybe you just still have some installation questions, please feel free to reach out to us via our Ask the Experts link, a comment on this video, or a phone call to our customer service department, and we would be happy to help you out on your journey. I want to thank Corey for trusting us with your Subaru and for coming out here and having this interview with us so that neighbors can also see what it's going to be like to get this installed on their vehicle.
Thank you, I appreciate it, and I'm loving the look of them.